Chancy Fab making some tabs.
What's up? So what we're doing is basically making some tabs for the back plate on the diff mount. Omar was working on cutting this piece out of a thinner material last night. This isn't the thickness that we're using, but just a little template so that we can get it mocked up there to get all the dimensions right and everything. So the next point is basically going to be making some rear tabs that are going to bolt underneath here to the subframe, and then it's also going to be bolted in through the top here into the subframe as well. Okay. So we're going to just add some additional reinforcements and then go ahead and start on the next part of the diff mount from there.
Cool. Getting ready to print out the real deal now. AWOL. Fastest car in the world, about to get that real diff. There you go, guys. Nice. Hey, wow. Where you gonna put in some water right now? Cutting up.
Cutting up some more. So what we're making here now is we're making the ears for the back of the lower control arm. So we're gonna basically build a frame for the lower control arm to mount to and then box it in. So once these are done cutting, we can kind of show you what we're talking about there.
Okay, cool. We got Mike finishing up AWOL stuff.
Yes, sir. Finishing up the diff mount kit on this one. So what we're working on now is the lower control arm brackets. Finishing that up. As you can see, we got our heim joints clearing perfectly in there.
Looks
so
clear.
These are going to be attached to some custom billet lower control arms that S1 Billet makes. So we're going to drill the holes out for those. I'm going to finish tacking up this side that we're going to box for the lower control arm. And then once that's done, then we're going to make the other tabs, and then we have the ears here that are going to be for the diff. So we'll get that centered properly. The previous diff mount that was in there, he was having issues with the length of the axles. It wasn't sitting perfectly center, so he had, you know, the two same size axles, but the passenger side kept breaking on him. So we're going to center the diff and then make sure he's able to use the two, you know, same size axles and get the axle clearance proper. As you can see here, we have the diff mount up on the Accord. What we're working on now is basically just making the mounting tabs. So the first tab that we have is on the back portion here. You saw it before where we were boxing in the lower control arm points. We haven't drilled holes yet for those because we don't know how far back we're going to set that, because it's all going to depend on where exactly the arm sits with the lower control arm there. So that will be next after we finish the top tabs up here. So this is just tacked in place just so that we can get everything aligned. And then what we're going to do from here is I'm just figuring out how much of a shim we're going to have on the back portion of this that we're going to weld to the plate so that we're able to drill these holes for it.
Almost there.
Getting there. One bolt at it. So as you can see here, we have one of the holes drilled. This is where we're going to countersink those 14mm Allen head nuts into the subframe there. And then from there, this is going to bolt in to the diff mount. So added some spacers. We just tacked these on just for right now, just to get the right depth that we needed for it. But this is going to slide in through there, and then it's going to screw directly into that countersink nut and secure it to the subframe from there.
Okay.
Previously, when they had the other aluminum diff mount in, what they did is basically cut this whole frame out so that they were able to clear the wagon diff, and then kind of folded this back. So we're just going to go ahead and basically cut the rest of this out down here, cut this out, and then we'll box this whole side here and here in as well. Just to give it a little bit of cleaner look there, and then also go through and probably clean up some of these, maybe do some little stitching here, just to get all that held together tight.
this nut in here, is that kind of welded onto that? So when you box it in, you really don't need it.
As far as this goes, this is actually part of the subframe, so there's no need to get back into there.
Okay.
That's actually a part of the subframe. So we used an existing hole that was there, you know, to make the diff mount tab off of. Yeah, all so right. That's going to be there. We're going to have some other joints that are going to come out from here that are going to be an arm that's going to extend all the way back here just to brace the diff mount for, you know, keep it from flexing forward or back. And then we're going to add a few other gussets and things like that before it's all said and done.
All right, it looks nice, man. All right,
yep, so that will be here. We're also going to add another decorative plate that's going to go over it after we get done with everything, and the ears and everything are on. We'll go ahead and powder coat this one, and then we're going to add an additional plate over the front of this as well.
Okay.
But as you see, we'll basically bolt all the way through into the subframe there and secure it here. It'll be secured here, and then 2 17s on the back as well.
Okay. Yeah, bro, looking good. Oh boy.
Hey, like we were talking about, you got to get inventive. So the two 14 millimeters that we have for the top of the diff mount, so where those are going to sit, as you can see from the back portion here, this one's fine, you got plenty of clearance, you can drill it out, no problem. On that side, you see where the trunk actually dips down. I had it marked out here where it needs to be, so basically just trying to get a pilot hole in this area. Yeah, there's nowhere to drill it from this side. So what we did is went ahead and just basically drilled a pilot hole in the back there so that we could get nice entry to the point where we need to drill. So this is where the last one came out, which is exactly where the nut is going to be welded on. So that'll line up good. So I'm going to just go ahead and drill that out the rest of the way with our step up bit.
And you had to make a drill.
Yeah. A little custom drill bit there, and got it held together with some electrical tape to make it work.
Work it, boy.
Yep, it worked.
You gotta make this thing work. AWOL going fast with this thing.
What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna cut this. They bent it over. I'm gonna cut it nice and even along here, and right along here.
Nice. So you can
and then Mike's gonna box it in.
Oh, cool.
That's Mike.
That's Mike. Hi, Mike.
And this is Mike too.
You don't want to wear Mike's face mask,
so test fit time.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Right on the money there. Right on the money, that one. That one looks good too.
So we have the right arm down from AWOL's car. What we're going to start with now, we've already shortened the arm, and then we added our custom toe adjuster for the Accord CB7. So what we're going to do now is we're going to modify the camber arm. So this was where the camber adjuster was mounted from previously on the car. This was one of them here. So basically it was bolted through here and secured like that with the nut and bolt. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this tab off. We made some tabs so that we can kind of angle it back. Just to give a little bit more clearance if he wants to run, you know, wider tires in the rear or anything like that in the future. So this is the tab that's going to fit for the top one here, as you can see. So if you look from the side over this way, you'll see that it pushes that hole back, and then kept the same height overall here, but it'll give you a little bit more clearance moving backward. This second tab, what we're going to do is we've made two of these. One obviously is going to be for the left, one's going to be for the right, and then we're going to measure this distance here. Once we get this cut and get this placed, this top tab placed where we want it, we'll measure the distance from here to there so we can modify that tab for the second one that's going to be a little bit longer on this side, just so the bolt hole lines up all the way through once we go ahead and weld those in place. off.
Time to grind down a little bit, probably.
Yep, so what we're gonna do is basically just go and kind of grind out some of this weld. I'm gonna try to get it as close to that placement so it's centered on top of the arm.
Okay.
So we'll grind some of that back more, and then this piece will actually get welded in line there.
Smoothing her out.
All right, so as you can see, we have the first tab tacked on there. So now what we're gonna need to do is, we're just using the same tab from the other side because we already have this exact dimension. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna measure this distance here so that we can go in and modify this tab and extend it down to be able to reach the bottom of the arm there where it arches.
I'm not good at it, so.
Oh yeah. Because when you put that, see that deletes that whole line. So delete this.
I got that tab ready.
Here, put it in your hand, TK.
Oh, good, Chancey.
All right, so we have the camber arms on here. So this was the previous camber arm that was welded on. That was the one that we cut off. So this is what was holding the camber adjustment. So now, as you can see, we've boxed it in, we've strengthened it. We're using 1/4" steel, and then we're going to be using our billet adjustable camber kit for this. So this is what it will look like from here. These were the tabs that we cut out before on the CNC, and just basically measured everything out to get the right angle because of the curvature of this. But as you can see, everything bolts up there. Now we're going to make the arms that are going to come off of the frame to mount this side too. So that will be the next step. 2 more brackets
for the frame.
Yep, and then basically we're going to mirror this over to the other arm as well.
All right, cool, man. We're good. Real deal.
Real deal.
Holyfield. Mike got the arm up right now, trying to check everything lines up. I know.
Look at this. You don't like my
new case cover.
New case cover. You want one? Order it. S1build.com.
Michaela's gonna be so confused tonight when I go. She's gonna be here. I was like, oh, Omar was teaching me how to use a laser machine. He's like, what do you want to do? I was like, let's do my cake.
Okay, give me your phone now.
Oh.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
All right, so we have the right hand arm up that we were modifying for the camber adjustment as well as the toe. We have this part cut. We have it tacked here for now because we don't know if we're going to need to adjust the angle or the length a little bit. Same thing with the camber here. So this part is done, it's welded. But what we're going to do next is figure out the distance for the backside of the camber arm here with where it's going to mount. So as you can see, this is going to go in here. These you're able to adjust out, but we're going to make tabs that are going to come off the frame here to mount this camber arm in place. So that's our next step of the puzzle for this side, and then once we get that figured out, basically it's going to be duplicating that from left to right in reverse, and then next we'll move on to the back portion of the diff mount once we get the arms in place and figure out the length of the lower control arms.
All right, cool. AWOL scars coming together, guys.
We got other side done now.
Looking good. We're gonna put that one up next.
Woo.
What's
going
up?
on?
What's up? Dry eyes.
We're installing the badass KDM shifter box in the Monster.
Oh man, that's nice. That's what everybody's using, right?
Yes, sir. Well, I don't know about everybody. If they can afford it, yeah.
Is that the one that it goes? You can't go back. You go first, second.
It
You can't go.
Yeah,
you can't
it can't go
back.
from second to first. It can't go from third to second. So it's a perfect lockout.
That's nice. That's nice. That's nice.
The Accord deserves it. It needed it.
Of course, it deserves it, man. It is a friggin' paddle shifters, all that stuff, right?
Eventually, that'll be a good one there. You know, I'm waiting for this company right there to make that. So a little secret there is coming for the Accord in the future.
All right. Man, I'm still amazed. Stock transfer case. Still amazed. You amazed the world.
Stock bell housing, stock transfer case. Yeah, impressive. Scary, but impressive.
Mechanical drag creation is just this genius guy, isn't it? This is what Genesis look like.
Built by me. Built by AWOL Customs.
Built by AWOL Customs.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so you're gonna install all this today, right? Everything?
Yeah, it comes with a, you know, we have to put a new shift weight, so it has a little bracket that goes on there. And I ordered a brand new weight from Honda, but for some reason doesn't want to slide in
You got a middle
and the little reverse mechanism. So we're checking, see what's going on.
So all the mechanism is kind of in here.
Yeah, it's got all the mechanism in there. All the lockouts are inside. You can see them right there. This is the lockout itself.
Okay.
You can see how it pushes. Well, we can take these out. This is where you adjust this, where all the magic happens. So that's the company right there, KDM Performance. Pretty badass box. I mean, it's not cheap, but I mean, it makes everything happen. It works and saves your motor. Yeah.
It doesn't go back. You can't go back and
so see, once you're in first gear, then this lockout activates, and it literally guides you into second gear. And once that's there, and you try to go into third, you see how it strains out.
Yeah.
You can't go into first. It strains the shifter onto third.
Oh, okay.
And then you have other lockouts right here, so you move these little dowel pins and these adjust it. So to get it in first, you would have to lift this, or in reverse, same thing, vice versa. See the little set screws? They come out and you adjust them to this thing. So it's just a lot of adjustments we're going to be doing once it's in the car. We can explain it better and adjust it. That's where all the adjustments is and stuff like that. Comes with its own badass shift cables and stuff.
Oh, check it out.
Woo! Oh man, you're showing too much now.
It's too hot. Oh, it's too hot.
You burn yourself. You burn yourself. Caution. Caution.
Oh man, looking nice.
Yes, sir. Look, it's already shifting itself.
Look at the setup you have in here.
Yeah, you know.
Wow.
A lot of work.
A lot of work.
It's gonna be a lot of changes, you know. It's still gonna be more changes eventually.
Yep. All for the better. All for the better.
So.
Drive. What's up?
Hey, everybody orders this shifter and it works perfect. Me, this shit doesn't even fit in. Like, come on, we're sanding this little thing down.
Because you're great, man. Because you're great, man.
No luck with the car, brother. That shifter setup and this. See how this one slides? Supposed to slide perfect like that. This one, we're sanding this down because this doesn't fit. So that's as far as we got after sanding all this down, because we can't drill this out. So, you know, if you try to drill this out, it's just gonna spin. So this little piece doesn't want to fit here. My luck. But it fits perfect on this one. It happens. Yeah, I guess.
And they're both the same exact size, yeah? Or?
Yeah, yeah. And the cables only go one way, they're labeled, so. But we'll get it. A little bit more sanding down, we'll keep going at it, we'll get it. That's all we could do.
1 minute job usually takes 10 hours, you know, like that. So.
Yeah, but the shift box is nice and super tight in there, it looks good. So, just gotta get it all to fit perfect, and that's it. Smack them gears as fast as we can.
Look at that hand movement. Only dry creations can do that.
It's bringing him back childhood memories there.
I know, right? Shit, dude. This is way back. You see? How's it looking, creations? Good?
We're adjusting the lockout in between fifth and reverse.
Fifth and reverse.
Making the KDM shifter works.
That one. So pretty much in there, it's where you like go to the line and you lined up, so that here.
Sí, pero el que tenía es mío.
Not locked.
El que tenía. We're gonna give it a little more of this.
A little more of that.
Yeah, we're checking the video of the adjustments on the shift box. Having fun adjusting everything.
This thing is so precise, right?
It's beautiful. I mean, besides the little sanding we had to do in the front, but we took care of it, got it figured out. Everything works. Now we're adjusting all the lockouts.
What's up, guys? We're back at it on AWOL's car. Finishing up the camber tabs right now. So the tops, as you can see, we did both left and right side, so that one's completed as well. Tacked in the inside tabs for the camber here. So this part started, so I'm working on the passenger side now to get those tacked into place. And then what we'll do is just basically put inserts in between so that we can go ahead and weld the whole front and back, and it stays in place the way we want it. Once we get done with that, then we're going to move on to the lower control arms. So we're going to work out a set of our custom billet lower control arms to the bottom. And once we set the lower control arm height and everything is good there as far as the toe adjustment, we'll figure out what we're going to do with the front, if we need to shorten it any or if we're going to have to move it in or out. So just moving through it step by step. First is going to be the camber, then the lower control arm, and then finally the toe up front once we get done with that.
And then next the diff, right?
Yep, once we get done with that and we have everything set right with the arms, then we can put the diff in, because what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to center it and make sure that the axle clearance is correct on both sides.
Even,
so
right?
Yeah, so we're going to even everything out first. Once we do that, and then we'll set it up for proper axle clearance. What's up, guys? So what we're doing here now is basically we measured the distance of this arm for the strut mount, and this one was about 1.25 inches taller. He was having issues when aligning the car on the right hand side. The left side he said was fine, so we kept that dimension, but we're going to mirror that dimension over to this one. So what we had to do is basically cut out the chunk of material that sat in between here, because this sat a lot higher. So what I did is from this line I marked it here at the height that we wanted it to sit to mirror this part here, and then after that I basically went back through and then cut the other side and then just milled that back so that we could get it at the right angle and get it to sit properly. And these were my guide marks that I left before so that we could get the pitch of the suspension correct, so that everything was aligned properly the way it was before. So we're just getting everything in line. I'm going to go through, measure everything out again, and then once that's done, then we can go ahead, and I'm just cleaning up all the way around now, and then we'll go ahead and weld this together. So we have all of the components on here, as you can see, for the trailing arms. The last piece of the puzzle is going to be the toe adjustment. So we haven't finished bolting up the other ear of that, as well as figuring out the angle that we're going to do for the front toe yet, because we're going to push it as far over to the right as possible so we can get the most adjustment out of it. We don't want it to be bottomed out to one side. We want to center the toe so that it has that adjustability when it goes for an alignment. So what we're working on now is just figuring out where we're going to go ahead and drill the hole here on the bottom of the diff mount for the lower control arm. So we have the heim joint in place there. This side's bolted in, the camber, everything's done, as well as the strut. What we did here, like we talked about before, is we actually lowered this by about 1.25 inches, because on the right side it was actually taller than it was on the left. So we shortened this, kept the same angle for the strut, and then went ahead and welded everything else together there for that, and then braced it in the front also. So that's all done. The camber's done, lower control arm. Now we'll work on the toe, and then we're going to go ahead and mount the diff up from there.
Yeah, all right, guys, it's coming. That's the cord. Zoop.
What's up, guys? So the next step here is going to be mounting the actual diff to the diff mount plate that we have here. So the tabs, we basically made these, got everything measured out to the exact length that we want it to sit, because we don't want to mess with his drive shaft. We're not going to modify that. Basically, we're just building the diff mount around the current configuration that he had to make this work with it. So we got the tabs measured out, everything lines up good. His drive shaft is bolted up, as you can see there. What we did a little bit different from the previous diff mount is, if you look at this one, on the back tab of this, basically it was mounted further off to the left, and that was to basically accommodate for the right pitch of the wagon differential. But in this case what it did is it actually made one of the axles longer than the other, and that's why he's having axle issues. So what we're doing is we're centering the diff mount. So the center line is actually underneath here if you look. So we're going to center the plates with that, and then we're going to mount this completely center so that the axle length is the same on both sides.
Nice. It's coming together nice, guys. Looks good, boy.
We're almost there.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that, once we get this part welded up in place, then we'll finish the top bar out. And then after that, we're going to work on the toe and then a couple of other little touch-ups up front on it, and then it'll be all good to go.
Yep. This thing is going to Hoonigan, right, for one of their seasons?
Yeah. So it's going to be going to Hoonigan for filming that they're doing coming up at the end of this month. So getting it wrapped up and going to get everything else powder coated and get it ready to go.
All right, cool, guys. So I say Hook, he came a long way, guys. He did everything on that. It was like a total revamp, you could say. Still kept their arms because it was good. So,
yep.
All right, guys, keep on following us. Like, subscribe.
Like and subscribe.